Our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, also wanted that uniform civil code should be brought into existence. But he was totally afraid. If he had stood strong, probably it would have come by that time itself. There was no need for us to debate now, even after 75 years. Our Bharatiya society is not a multicultural society. Specifically, it is Bharatiya, and specifically, it is a Hindu culture society. That all eminent archaeologists and historians and anthropologists, they considered the Hindu culture as the only culture in the world which has a cultural continuity. No other culture in the world has. Namasarvebhya. We human beings are scientifically called Homo sapiens sapiens. Actually, Homo sapien means wise man. It is the archaeological and anthropological term for human beings. And Homo sapien sapiens is the modern man. So when the ancient society started, since we are all supposed to be wise people, there arose a need to organize our society for the smooth and harmonious functioning of the societies. And there were so many aspects concerned with the society, with human beings, and interaction between the human beings, interaction between the humans and the nature, interaction between the human and the animals. So many aspects were there in the society, and the people of ancient times and ancient societies, they thought there should be a code of law to organize and regularize all these things. And because of that, all these codes have originated. The need for a code in a human society. Why I am mentioning this is, just a few minutes back, our justice was uttering a word, wokeism. Wokeism is a word very much nowadays in use, which means nothing but anarchy. So, but our ancient societies and ancient people did not think of anarchy. They wanted an organized, harmonious society. Because of that, there was a need for a code of law. And that is how we got Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, and Mitakshara, and so many things. There is a lot, and by the way, I would like to clarify that there is a lot of misconception about Manusmriti. One has to read what eminent justice late Ramajoyis has written on Manusmriti. He has clarified how great Manusmriti is there. Besides this, the code of laws has to be revived and rearranged, reorganized according to need of the times. That is the historic necessity. Every society will have a need of time and also historic necessity where these changes has to be incorporated for the smooth functioning. For nearly many centuries, probably for 1,000 years, our Bharatiya society, and specifically the Hindu society, it could not revise its codes. We still depended on Yajnavalkya Smriti and Mitakshara, and all these things are there because we were under colonial rule. And the most important aspect for the scholars and religious leaders and people who were looking after the traditional aspects was to preserve our tradition, preserve our scholarship. And this was the reason why we could not revise. Such an occasion arose when we achieved independence and when the constitution was to be drafted. And one important and most notable aspect regarding UCC in the drafting committee of the constitution is the bill was moved by the women members of the constitution drafting committee. That is the most important aspect that has not been highlighted. It is Hansa Jivaraj Mehta, Amrit Kumari Kaur, Rani Amrit Kumari Kaur, and Sucheta Kriplani, plus others. These 15 people, they moved the bill. And Hansa Mehta made a significant contribution. She stressed on the need for establishing a single Indian identity. Indian means Bharatiya. So she was very specific. It is a single Indian identity over multiple religious identities, and the role of the state has to play in this. State has to ensure this, how it should be incorporated, how it should be drafted. This was very much, and it was supported by Masani and also Dr. Ambedkar and so many other people in 1948 and 49 itself. And the proposal for the bill was also at that time. It was only on personal laws. The Constitution Drafting Committee never touched about any religious laws or any such thing. Am I correct, sir? The proposal was concerned with marriage, divorce, inheritance, property rights, and succession, and all these things were involved. All these are secular things. Though many religious communities have different aspects of these things and different laws for these things, but these are all secular aspects, and the Constitution Drafting Committee wanted, for the sake of the single Indian identity, we should have a uniform civil code at that time. But the drafting committee dithered because they were afraid. There was partition, and throughout our mindset, unfortunately, the mindset in the 40s was a mindset of appeasement. And because of that, the country was also partitioned. And so many things happened. It was because of the mindset of appeasement. It continued. In fact, Nehru also wanted, our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, also wanted that uniform civil code should be brought into existence. But he was totally afraid. If he had stood strong, probably it would have come by that time itself. There was no need for us to debate now, even after 75 years. This is what happened at that time. And the opposition to the bill was from 5 Muslim gentlemen, Sir Nizamuddin and others. And what they termed it, and they considered it as a tyrannical. Nizamuddin says it is Article 35 is tyrannical, and state has no right to interfere in the personal laws of any community, as it infringes the fundamental right given by Article 19. Our first Prime Minister also, Nehru already said, he also very much deterred. Because of this mindset, unfortunately, even after 75 years, we are debating today whether UCC is to be brought or not. It should have been brought by now. The main premises for opposing UCG is that Bharat is a multi-religious and multicultural society, and UCC will not apply to it. It will be a disaster in a multicultural society. In this aspect, I want to look at it from the historical perspective. See, UCC is not, as I already said, is not applicable to any religious practices, the way of worship, how we are going to worship, how many artis we will do, or how many times an azan will be done. All these things are not covered by UCC. It is purely personal laws. So it is not going to touch any religious aspect. That will be more explicitly explained by our legal people here. Regarding the multicultural society, it is the greatest misnomer we have got here. Our Bharatiya society, deliberately I am using the word Bharatiya instead of Indian. Our Bharatiya society is not a multicultural society. Specifically, it is Bharatiya, and specifically, it is a Hindu culture society and nothing else. And as a student of history and archaeology, I wish to elaborate one aspect, that all eminent archaeologists and historians and anthropologists, they considered the Hindu culture as the only culture in the world which has a cultural continuity. No other culture in the world has. There were 32 cultures and civilizations, all have got destroyed. Even the Chinese civilization and culture, it is also being influenced very much by the Indian culture, by Bharatiya culture. You just imagine, you just think of Mesopotamian culture, what we call modern today Iraq. That culture doesn't exist there. Once Arab invasion took place, it became Arabic culture. If you go to Egypt, there is no Egyptian culture. In the University of Cairo, there is nobody to teach archaic Egyptian language or to read those hieroglyphics written there. Nobody is worshipping Isis or any other god of ancient Egyptian gods. To understand Egyptian culture, Egyptology, you have to go to Harvard or Cambridge or Oxford. That is the situation. Once the Arab culture spread there, the whole thing was destroyed. Even the Greek, we are so familiar with Greek and we use so much Greek terminology, both in legal and other things. That ancient Greek culture is not there. Yes. Nobody is worshipping the ancient gods of Athena or Apollo or those gods. All those mandirs were been destroyed once the Christianity took over. And there is no question of Aristotle, Plato, or Archimedes and Apollonius being reborn 2000 years after the entry of Christianity. There is no Greek intellectual movement in the world. But even though we were subjugated for 1000 years of colonial rule, our culture has been preserved. It is the same culture that is being flowing even today. It is the same Vedic mantras. It is the same lifestyle. And when I say lifestyle, yes. I would like to mention one jokingly a note. See, all of us know that in our Hindu system, that if a person dies and his corpse will be kept, its legs will be towards south, because we consider the abode of Yama is in the south and the person should not come back. So that is why his legs will be pointing towards the south. Archaeologically, archaeologists will be excavating various cemeteries which were burial cemeteries and burial grounds which were done thousands of years ago, even 20,000 years ago. In our own country, when the excavations has been done, the legs of the skeleton was always pointing towards south. See, our tradition is 20,000 year old, 30,000 year old. So it has not changed. This is what I pointed to mention. It is something like, if you look at a mango tree, the sap that flows in the mango tree, it will be nourishing the bark, the stem, the leaves, the fruit, the flower, everything. Everything smells the same mango sap. But mango tree has got different manifestations. It has got a stem, it has got a branches, it has got flower, it has got fruit, it has got leaves, so many things. Like that, our Hindu culture, that sap is continuously flowing, and all other cultures are manifestation. What we call today, we have got so many other cultural things in our country, that Karnataka culture, Punjab culture, Madhya Pradesh culture, or Tamil Nadu culture. It is the same culture nourished by the Hindu Jivarasa, what we call Jivarasa, that is life-giving, energy-giving, vital force. It has been flowing for thousands of years. So multicultural society is totally a misnomer. So we have to consider. That is why in Karnataka also, the doyen of Kannada literature, Kuvempu, he was Rashtra Kavi, and he wrote a poem called Jai Bharata Jananiya Tanujate, Jaya He Karnataka Mate. He did not write Jai Karnataka Mate, who is daughter of Bharat Mata. He wrote the daughter of Bharat Mata, O Karnataka Mate, I am hailing you. Wow. So this is the aspect. So the question of multiculturalism doesn't exist. There is only one culture that we have to educate among the public. That is what is very much required. And one more aspect I will tell you, even the foreigners who look at it, I am speaking to you only from the historical point of view. People who look at it, foreigners also, when they say Indian architecture, what is Indian architecture? Bharatiya architecture. What is it? It is our temples, our old palaces. Nobody says Jamia Masjid or Saint Philomena's Church as Bharatiya architecture. It is the temples and the palaces that is called Indian architecture. They call it. Indian dance. It is our Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi. Indian music, Carnatic or Hindustani. Take it for Indian cuisine. Our food, it is idli, masala dosa, parota, dal, palav and nothing else. So even the foreigners consider what is Indian. So we have to understand these things and see that this is very much propagated, because what is now important is narrative. A narrative is being created in the country that UCC is not required for this country. It is going to divide the country. It is against minorities. These are the things narrative is being built up. Unfortunately, we have to do something. Otherwise, always people create the narrative and we will be on the defense. Before that, we have to educate the people. We have to make the common man understand that this is the reality. Then only we can address these issues. And even taking to minorities, I will say it is the concept of the Hindu culture only pervading in them. We all know that in the state of Kerala and also in our Mangalore, Dakshin Kannada, South Kannada district and North Kannada districts, in front of many churches, they are erecting Garuda Gambas and they are doing Arati. Whatever may be the reason for this. I am not going into the reason for these things. But see what is the influence. It is the Indian culture. It is the Bharatiya culture. Doing Arati and to worship. What is the Bharatiya way? You have to do Arati, you have to hold the Garuda Gamba, break the coconut, flowers, so many things. And you are adopting it for whatever reason it is. They are adopting it. So everybody is acknowledging that even the minorities, the so-called minorities, probably in future we may have to have a debate like this. What is the definition of a minority? How many persons will constitute a minority? These are the historical aspect that has to be debated. And Spandana, once again I congratulate Spandana for taking up this issue to educate the people and to discuss these things. The most important thing is to bring any change. What is most important is the public will. Only the public will and desire will make the government and also judiciary or whoever it is to see that it is implemented. For that reason, we have to have more and more. This should not stop at one meeting like this. Throughout the country, such meetings should be held in smaller groups or in bigger groups, and people to be educated, and the people should start demanding. It is the people's will that is going to prevail. With these few words, I conclude my talk. Thank you very much. Namaskar.